If you've ever been counted out when it mattered most, this story is for you.
On the head of the CSKA.
In 2012, Olympiacos was down by 19 points against tournament favorites CSKA Moscow in the EuroLeague Final. But what happened in the next 12 minutes became the most viral comeback in European basketball history and proved that the word impossible doesn't exist in sports. Most teams would have given up. Most fans would have gone home. But what Olympiacos did next rewrote the rules of what's possible in basketball. What's up, basketball fans, and welcome back to the channel. I'm here to break down the most incredible comeback stories in sports history, and today's story, it's about the night when everything that could go wrong did go wrong, until it didn't. This is the story of the 2012 EuroLeague Final, but more than that, it's about what happens when you refuse to accept defeat, even when the entire world has written you off. On May 13, 2012, at the Sinan Erdem Dome in Istanbul, Turkey, two basketball powerhouses met for European supremacy. But this wasn't just any final. This was about 15 years of heartbreak, national pride, and one team's last chance at redemption. Let me paint the picture for you. Olympiacos Piraeus from Greece versus CSKA Moscow from Russia. On paper, this looked like David versus Goliath. Except Goliath had been dominating European basketball all season long. For Olympiacos, the stakes couldn't have been higher. They hadn't won a continental trophy since 1997. That's 15 years of coming close but never quite reaching the summit. 15 years of what if, and almost. CSKA Moscow, on the other hand, was considered the favorite going into this final. They had the talent, the experience, and the momentum. Everyone expected them to add another trophy to their collection. But here's what makes great stories great. They don't follow the script. And what was about to unfold in Istanbul would prove that sometimes the most beautiful chapters are written when the pen seems to have run out of ink. As the game began, everything went according to plan. For CSKA, they came out executing their game plan to perfection, while Olympiacos looked like a team feeling the pressure of the moment. The lead grew steadily. 5 points became 8. 8 became 12. And then, just when you thought it couldn't get worse for Olympiacos, it did. At one point during the game, CSKA had stretched their advantage to 19 points. 19 points in a EuroLeague final. To put this in perspective, and here's a fact that will make what happens next even more incredible. No team had ever come back from a 19-point deficit in a EuroLeague final in the competition's history. For Olympiacos, this was their worst nightmare playing out in real time. After 15 years of waiting, their moment was slipping away on the biggest stage in European basketball. The math was brutal. The history was against them. Logic said the game was over. But here's where our story takes its first unexpected turn. However, as the official EuroLeague records show, Olympiacos improved along the way. Something fundamental shifted in their approach to the game. Vasilis Spanoulis, their veteran leader and the heart of this team, began to assert himself. This is what separates good players from legends, the ability to rise when the moment demands it most. Slowly, methodically, Olympiacos began to chip away at that massive deficit. It wasn't dramatic at first, just solid basketball, one possession at a time. The 19-point lead became 16, then 14, then 12. Each point felt like climbing a mountain, but they kept climbing. You could feel something changing in the arena. The crowd that had been quiet began to stir. The impossible was starting to look merely improbable. But this is where the story gets really interesting, because what happened next would test every ounce of mental strength this Olympiacos team possessed. As Olympiacos continued their comeback attempt, CSKA wasn't just going to roll over. Every time the Greek team made a run, the Russian powerhouse had an answer. This became a battle of wills. Olympiacos would cut the lead to single digits, and CSKA would push it back to double digits. It was like watching two heavyweight boxers trading punches, neither willing to go down. The tension in the arena was palpable. Every possession mattered. Every shot carried the weight of 15 years of history. This is when Georgios Printizis began to emerge as a crucial figure in this comeback story. Remember that name, Georgios Printizis, because he's about to become the most important person in this entire arena. The crowd was now fully invested. What had started as a potential blowout had become a genuine contest. But the question remained, could Olympiacos actually complete what would be the greatest comeback in EuroLeague Final history? With the game entering its final stages, everything was about to be decided. And what happened next would be talked about for decades. As the game moved into its crucial final phase, Olympiacos had managed to make this a competitive contest. The team that had been down by 19 points was now within striking distance of completing the impossible. According to official game records, Olympiacos managed to execute what's described as a 14-point run that capped their comeback. A 14-point run when it mattered most. That's championship-level basketball. Let me break down what a 14-point run means in this context. In a game where every possession is crucial, scoring 14 points while holding your opponent to minimal scoring is like solving a complex equation under the most intense pressure imaginable. The arena was now electric. 20,000 people were witnessing history being written in real time. After leading 53-34 at one point, CSKA Moscow now found themselves in a fight for their lives. The hunters had become the hunted. With the game hanging in the balance, both teams knew that the next few possessions would determine who would be crowned European champions and who would go home with nothing but regrets. And then came the moment that would define careers, create legends, and prove that in basketball, it's never over until the final buzzer sounds. The final score would be Olympiacos 62, CSKA Moscow 61. But that single point difference represented so much more than just a number on a scoreboard. Georgios Printezis, the man who would hit the shot that completed this historic comeback, later reflected on this moment. In his own words, "My best memories in the EuroLeague were in 2012 and back-to-back in 2013. When that final shot went in, it wasn't just a basketball going through a hoop. It was 15 years of frustration being released. It was proof that persistence pays off. It was validation that believing in yourself when no one else does can move mountains." The celebration that followed was pure, unfiltered emotion. This wasn't just about winning a game. This was about completing one of the most inspiring comeback stories the EuroLeague has ever seen. This comeback is now officially recognized as one of the most inspiring comeback stories the EuroLeague has ever seen. It's called the Istanbul Miracle, and it's still referenced today whenever people talk about never giving up. The numbers tell the story. 19-point deficit overcome. First team ever to do it in a EuroLeague final. 15 years of waiting finally rewarded. But the real legacy of this game isn't in the record books. It's in the proof that impossible is just an opinion. That when you refuse to quit, when you keep fighting even when logic says you should surrender, sometimes miracles happen. On May 13, 2012 in Istanbul, Turkey, Olympiacos didn't just win a basketball game. They proved that the most beautiful stories in sports aren't about the teams that were supposed to win, they're about the ones who refuse to lose. If this comeback story inspired you, I want to hear about it. What's the greatest comeback you've ever witnessed in sports? Drop it in the comments below. Was it this Olympiacos miracle, or do you have another one that tops it? And if you want more incredible sports stories like this one, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and remember, it's never over until it's over.